The back stitch is a very simple straight stitch. You're going to bring your needle up at the beginning of your line and make about a 1 to 2 inch stitch, bringing your needle down. Then you will bring your needle up the same length of your stitch, and then you will bring your needle down the whole of the end of your first stitch. So up and then back down the end of your stitch. You continue this process until your line is finished. We are going to do a whipped back stitch. To begin, make a line of back stitches just like our first stitch. So go ahead and make a line of back stitches. Now you are going to bring your needle up at the end of your line. We're going to whip your back stitch. You're going to bring your needle up behind your first stitch. Each time you want to pull your needle behind your stitch in the same direction, being sure not to pick up any fabric with your stitch. You're creating a line that looks like a vine or a rope. When you finish, bring your needle down at the end of your line. Here's another look at the whipped back stitch. Our next stitch is a stem stitch. You're going to bring your needle up just like in our previous stitches. Before pulling your thread all the way through, you want to bring your needle up about halfway where you came up and where you went down, and then pull that tight. Now make a stitch again. You'll continue this for your whole line. Be sure to always keep your thread on the same side. So you're going to go down and you're going to come up about halfway through your stitch, making sure to keep your thread on the same side each time. Here's another look at the stem stitch. This stitch will be used a lot when you're making any design with lots of flowers. It's great for bouquets and things like that. It gives it a little texture more than just like a little straight back stitch line. One thing that I've really learned through embroidery is to take your time and be gentle with it. And if you see a knot coming, just take your time to get it out. Alright, so satin stitch is just a very simple straight stitch. You're going to go up and down, and then your next stitch you're going to bring right next to your first stitch. You can go up and down right at the same spot. This is a great filler stitch. Just make sure that you're going right next to your last stitch. You go up and then down, and just take your time with it. So you just go up right next to your last stitch and down right next to your last stitch. You'll notice that the satin stitch is used a lot in flowers. You just shape your stitch to be whatever flower you want. So it's not always going to be in a square like in this sample, but this just kind of gives you an idea of how to make your stitches right next to each other. You'll notice in that last time I didn't go right next, I kind of left a gap and then filled back in. Some people like to do this to get a little closer to exact. So here we go again, just making a square satin stitch. So you just bring up your second stitch right next to your first stitch and go down right next to your first stitch, and continue that until your whole space is filled. The Lazy Daisy stitch is an easy way to make a flower. You're going to bring your needle up at the point end of your petal shape. You're going to go back down at the same hole or even right next to it. You're going to create a loop at the curved end. Bring your needle up at the middle of the curve, making sure it goes the inside of your loop, and then go back down. Again, you're going to go up at the pointed end of your shape and down that same hole or right next to it. Then you're going to bring your needle up at the curved end, bring your needle through, making a loop, and now you've made a petal. You'll continue making petals with your Lazy Daisy stitch until your flower is complete. The Lazy Daisy stitch could also be used to make leaves. Instead of going in a circle, you would just make your stitch right next to your stem stitch to make a leaf for your flower bouquet. And there you go. Your Lazy Daisy is completely finished. If you notice, I didn't put anything in the center, but next up you'll learn how to do a French knot, and you can use the French knot for your center. Here's another view of doing a Lazy Daisy stitch. The French knot is a great filler stitch, especially for the center of flowers. It may seem a little tricky, but you can do it. You're going to bring your needle up through your fabric, and then you're going to wrap your thread around the pointed part of your needle 2 times, and you're going to go down right next to where you brought your needle up. Again, you're going to come up, wrap your thread twice, and then you're going to go down right next to where you came up at. One thing to keep in mind as you do your French knot is to keep your thread tight and to go slow so that you can keep control over your knots. For the leaf fishbone, you're going to bring your needle up at the top pointed part of your leaf and then go down about halfway down the leaf. Now you're going to come up on the left side, and then you're going to go down on the right side right next to that first stitch you had. Now you're going to go to the right side, and you're going to come down on the left side right next to your first stitch. And you're going to keep repeating this pattern. So you're going to go left, you're going to go up on your left, and then down on your right. And you'll keep rotating back and forth. So you'll go up on your right and down on your left, and then up on your left and down on your right. And you're going to continue making these straight stitches all the way down until your leaf fills up. It's going to take a while, and it's going to take a few times to really practice doing this stitch to get it to look how you want it. And it is a time-consuming stitch, but it's worth it. You could also, if you don't want your leaf to be so close together, you don't want it to be a tight leaf, you can leave a little bit more spaces between your stitches, but I like my leaves to be nice and tight, and so they look small, but they are a really pretty, I think they're a really pretty stitch. Now on this second leaf fishbone stitch, you can see my leaf, the actual leaf is a whole lot smaller, and so my stitches therefore are a whole lot smaller. But you can make your leaves big or you can make your leaves small. Just make your stitch size based on how big your leaf is. And so because this is a small leaf, it doesn't take quite as many stitches to make it through. Just remember, if you go up on your left, you're going to go to the right of your leaf. You're going to go down on the right of your leaf. So up on my right, down on my left, and just keep alternating between your stitches, and after no time you'll have a leaf made. Our last stitch is a woven wheel stitch. One thing to keep in mind is you always want an odd number of lines in your circle. The first thing you're going to do is make a straight stitch on each line going down the center of your circle. You're always going to want to go up on the outside of your circle and down on the center of your circle. You're going to repeat this straight stitch for each line in your circle. Then you're going to bring your needle up in the center of your circle, and you're going to begin weaving your needle through those straight stitch lines that you created. You're going to go under and over until you fill up your whole circle. It's going to take a while. Depending how tight or loose your thread is will depend on how tight or loose your flower looks in the end. I will sometimes use the blunt end of my needle to weave my thread through the stitches so that I don't accidentally stitch through a line or even pull a line tighter than it should be. It's just an easier way sometimes to weave, especially if you're using like a small circle to make a small flower. It just kind of helps me out sometimes. We all start somewhere. This was my very first project, no problema, and it has turned into a passion of mine. I hope that you enjoyed our embroidery class today, and this will bring you joy, just like it brings me joy. Always remember to have fun while you are creating.